Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a screencast thematic presentation and recording for the part of the lesson that has looking at primary documents for the Mongol era and the Mongol Empire in world history. Before we get started, please let me encourage you to click on the primary docs for this lesson and to get ready to fill out the template that coincides with the doc. So we're going to do this doc by doc and section by section, and we'll give you an analysis and overview in two different sections. The first one is for documents 1 through 4, and the other one is through 5 through 8. Let's go ahead and start with the first one, and we will digress and talk about in depth each doc. From document 1, information on the source. This photo is of a woman, possibly Turkmen or Kirs, standing on a carpet at the entrance to a yurt. Dressed in traditional clothing and jewelry, the photo was taken in the early 1900s, but it depicts a scene on the steppes of Central Asia that is not that different from what would have been common there during the time of the Mongol Empire. So if you can look closely and maybe even zoom in and see some of the details of this doc, one could easily see that, in many ways, this is a representation of course, a really high definition photo of a woman in particular who's standing in a yurt with traditional clothing. And I think the reason why this doc matters is because, in a sense, it's showing the cultural norms of the Mongolian life for women for the time, and showing really how they lived, what they wore, and also additionally the types of lifestyles that they might have led with the yurts or the houses in the back. So as you can see, that's what we're going to be doing for each doc, just looking, analyzing, and taking the main points away from them accordingly. Let's move on to document number 2, and let's go back to the portal. All right, so for document number 2, this is another photo, information on the source, an 1870s photo of a woman and 4 men on horseback in front of a yurt. This photo helps call attention to the central role of the horse in the various cultures that gave birth to the Mongols and other federations of steppe nomads in the past. So what's really interesting about this photo, if you can go ahead and slide over and zoom in, you can clearly see that there's a group of people, even a woman on a horse. And once again, if you did the lesson, you know how important horses were, not just for warfare, but also for daily cultural life as well. So in a sense, what does this primary document really show? Well, one could deduce that because this photo shows horses and people, one could probably also understand or analyze that this calls attention to the role of the horse as a central, if you will, figure in Mongolian life. Once again, horses, I'm sure, were incredibly fundamental for herding and the agrarian farming and nomadic lifestyle that these people had. I would also argue that the horse was an incredible companion during warfare, so of course, maintaining a relationship with the horse and mastering the skills of riding probably went a long way. Now let's go ahead and look at the next primary doc here. This is document number 3. Let's go back to the portal. Document number 3, here's the background. So basically, the Franciscan monk William of Robrook traveled to the Mongol Empire of Karakorum in 1253 to 55, and he wrote a detailed account of his time with the Mongols. The passage here is from the journey of William of Robrook to the eastern parts of the world from 1253 to 55, as narrated by himself, with 2 accounts of the earlier journey of John of Pion de Caprin, translated from the Latin and edited with an introductory notice by William Woodville Rockhill. Here's the actual doc itself. Listen carefully to what it says. So, nowhere have they fixed dwelling places, nor do they know where their next will be. For in the winter they go down to the warmer regions in the south. In the summer they go up to the cooler towards the north. The pasture lands without water. They graze over the winter when there is snow there, and for the snow serveth them as water. They set up a dwelling in which they sleep on a circular frame of the interlaced sticks, converging into a little round hoop on the top, from which projects above have a collar as a chimney, and this then they cover over their white felt. And then they make these houses so large that they are sometimes 30 feet in width. I myself once measured the width between the wheel tracks of a cart 20 feet, and when the house was on the cart, it projected beyond the wheels on either side 5 feet at least. I myself counted to one cart 22 oxen drawing one house, even abreast across the width of the cart, and the other 11 before him, or them. So what can we deduce from this doc? Well, in a sense, this is a diary entry here that shows a detailed account of time with Mongols, specifically in regards to their living conditions and their houses. So, as you were from completing this part of the lesson, one could probably tell that this document basically depicts the primitive living conditions of the Mongol life, but yet at the same time, the awe that this person has at their mobility and the sheer size and magnitude of forces of what it takes to move a house or a yurt from place to place, as these people, once again, were nomadic. So that's the beauty of primary docs here. We get a real up-close doc and view of really what life was like for these people. Let's go ahead and go to the 4th doc here, and then we'll create the next segment of our presentation. So let's go back to the portal. So we're going to exit out of this, and we should be good to go back. And here's the next part for document number 4, the background. Information on the source. In one of his wars of conquest, Genghis Khan fought the Khazar Empire in Central Asia and what is now Iran and part of Iraq. After his Mongol army took over the city of Bukhara, he spoke to the Muslim population at a mosque, and these words from that speech are reproduced from Atta Malik Jivilani, Genghis Khan, The History of the World Conqueror, translated by J.A. Boyle. Here's what the doc says. O people, know that you have committed great sins, and that the great ones among you have committed these sins. If you ask me what proof I have of these words, I say it is because I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. Pretty interesting words here, if I might say. So what does this doc really show? Well, this is more of a speech that Genghis Khan spoke to in one of his conquered regions of the Middle East. I think to establish himself as a ruler and to show dominion, he did in fact make the speech in a way where he says that you, people, have committed a great sin by trying to rival me and our empirical rule. So God has sent me to be a punishment to you, and now you will pay the price. And in many ways, this is Mongol Empire and Rule 101. And so you can get a real feel for how Genghis Khan at least viewed his role as both the leader of the empire and as one, of course, who was putting these people in their place. So hopefully already you get a feel for how this part of the assignment is done. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section here. So please click accordingly to the next screencast, and we shall progress from there. Thank you.